Okay, I know Matt Puglisi has a hard stop at 9:45, so I want to start the meeting. We have a couple things to add. So all members are present. Matt Puglisi. Matt, you there? Yep, I see you. So we'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. There are no members of the public online. I assume everybody here is waiting for an agenda item to comment, right? There's no other comments right now. I didn't really prepare many comments today. I don't know if we all received it yet, but a letter from the folks at Save Our Shade to the Inland Wetlands Commission about the trees that were taken down over behind Mystic Market on Mill Rock Road West. Just kind of really indicating to the Inland Wetlands Commission what they'd like to see in terms of restitution and replanting and I don't know, did you guys see that letter?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to acknowledge it in the record. With regard to the town hall consulting that went through about 6 months ago or 4 or 5 months ago, we did receive a draft IT report. IT was the topic that they went after first. So I'll be able to share that in a little bit with the board. I haven't reviewed it yet. We have an internal meeting on that next week. Portside Parade was lots of fun, obviously. Huge crowd, like I can't remember seeing, but it seems like it's bigger every year. Anyway, that's all I have right now. About the other members.
Well, Monument Way is now almost complete. We're waiting for our plaque for the gold, bronze, and silver sponsors, and that I think is on its way. So that has been a monumental success. We created a press release. I expect that to go out soon.
Matt.
Well, I think he's good. There he goes.
So, Matt, anything in particular you want to add on comments?
No other comments.
Okay. All right. All right, we'll take up the minutes from November 28, 2023. I'll make a motion to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Matt, Scott. I think we've all reviewed them. Any comments, additions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye.
I want to add, before I forget, one thing to the agenda, and it is, I want to add to the agenda a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign a release of lien. And I'll explain it when I'd like to add it first.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. And then we can take up the topic itself. So adding it to the agenda, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks. So this is the subject property I was just talking about at 86 Mill Rock Road. It actually is the Swain property. And there's a lien on there from 1990 that I think Roger Goodnow put on. I'm not sure, somebody put on, I think it was Roger Goodnow. From January 25th, 1990. It's just kind of a back then, social services was doing some sort of support agreement for certain folks. The lien is obviously 33 years old. It has been requested that it be released because the property that is the subject of the lien, the Swains, number one, shouldn't have a lien on their property if it's not a proper lien. And number two, it's possible that the folks who did the tree clearing might want to purchase part of this property. And I don't know if any of that is going to happen or not. All I know is in the midst of all this kind of mess, there's a lien that came to my attention, and I ran it by Mike Cronin. And Mike Cronin thinks it is an illegal lien that should be released. And his comments, did you guys see these in your packet?
Yes.
His comments, right. So I won't review his comments other than he thinks that the lien should not be on the property. And quite frankly, anytime you can clear up clouded title or any sort of liens on a property that should be cleared up, trust me, it helps people going forward in a chain of title whenever a house does transfer. So are there any, you guys have seen this, any questions on it? Matt, do you have anything? I know you're online, so I'm going to turn to you first.
I don't have any questions on it.
Okay, so I'm going to move that the board authorize me to execute a release of lien against Phyllis Swain, dated January 25th, 1990, and recorded in volume 274, page 610 of the Old Saybrook land records. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you for that. All right, let's move through this agenda relatively quickly because we do have some folks in here who want to make a presentation. So I'll move that we on 8 Quarry Street that the building permit fee be refunded. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
This comes from the building department, obviously Tom McElwicky. Frequently, I didn't take a deep dive into this. Frequently, is they either took out a building fee and just didn't proceed with the work, or sometimes it's a solar installation. So, been moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The tax sale policy, for discussion only, we could take action on it. There's under section 3, paragraph 3, it says a sewer use fee or sewer assessment. Obviously, we don't have sewers, so I would correct that. But, you know, every now and then there are properties in town that they're 1 year, they're 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years delayed on the grand list and paying. Obviously, the amounts vary based on how much taxes they owe every year.
So Carl, for
Yeah.
example, the property we just spoke about that had a lien against it, would that have been a property that may have been included in something like this?
Certainly you can foreclose on a lien. This is more with regard to real estate property taxes. I was talking about it with the tax collector. There's a property in town that's 3 years delinquent. And Mark brought to my attention, he said, you know, don't you think we should have a policy on this? Otherwise, it's just discretionary. Who's deciding whether we should hire a lawyer and foreclose on a real estate property lien? So I thought it was a good idea. He did a little research. this actually comes from Simsbury. I changed it around a little bit. I didn't, let's just talk about it today. We don't, no action. Matt, you're not here, so, I'll let you guys look at it another 2 weeks or so, or maybe actually it'll be 4 weeks probably. But what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, overall, I think it makes sense for us to have a policy and approach everything consistently and not just, at random. Just in terms of, clarifying. So it defines what seriously delinquent is. And so $25,000, for example, if a property is $25,000 delinquent, and we're going to act on this policy and facilitate sale, and the property is valued in excess of that, the town is only going to receive what is due to the town in the sale, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
All right, and usually attorney's fees and costs, but,
Right.
but yeah, no, the owner of the equity usually will receive remaining funds, and obviously they could always bid on the property and take it back. But it's also 25,000 or $3,000 list late. So that would trigger the ability of the town, not necessarily require the town to move forward on a tax sale. So anyway, take a look at it. I'll refine it. I'll put it in more final form for our next meeting. And if you guys have any further comments, just shoot me an email or bring it up at the next meeting. Or if you'd like to, mark up the policy yourself with recommended changes and get them back to me. How does that sound?
That sounds fine. The sewer idea is something we may end up having, so it may or may not be something good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can say sanitation.
Yep.
You could probably use that word to kind of cover that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Why don't we?
Carl, I think, can I just give you one thing
Yes.
to think about? I think the only place that is still, not clear is at the very end. Should the chief administrative officer determine that the enforced action is warranted, he or she will advance that part. Do we want to put any timeline in terms of a decision being made so that there's just a consistent application of the policy? Because we're defining when it's seriously delinquent, but it's still leaving it basically to the revenue collector, finance director, chief administrative officer. Do we want to just set a timeline or no?
It's actually not. It then says we'll advance it to the Board of Selectmen. So it's not, it would be a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that we proceed with the sale. So then it's not just the chief administrative officer or the finance director willy-nilly make it 3 years when you do it. The Board of Selectmen can say, no, I don't think that's appropriate at this point. It's only $5,000, let's, so I think the protection is in there that it comes back to the Board of Selectmen for a vote. Okay.
Thanks.
I'll bring that back next time. Because I know it's new, it's different, it's a policy. I think it's something that should be more properly considered over the course of a month or two when we're enacting a policy. We've done actually, you guys hit me over the head sometimes. Obviously, it was on the agenda, 86 Mill Rock Road, so that was already on the agenda. We didn't need to add it. We're going to skip over discussion of transfer station fees right now with the boards. The consensus of the board will move over that right now. Either take it up today or at another time. No urgency to this. I know we've been trying to get at it for a few months. On appointments, I do want to do the appointments right now. On number 1, I'll move Erica Kazenza as an alternate member. She's been very involved in stuff. I know Erica, so I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Historic District Commission, Barbara Harms, to a 5-year term due to expire in 12/2028. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Barbara's been very involved, as I think we all know, with the Historical Society and is a good member of the Historic District Commission. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And the next two are on the Water Pollution Control Authority. I'll move those together, that we appoint Jason Becker and Jay Kulowick to 3-year terms due to expire in 12/26. These are two, one of them is the chairman. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. You know, we're lucky to have them, to be honest with you, on that board. Jay is a civil engineer. He's been very helpful on that board, and Jason has done a good job as chairman. I believe there are some alternate spots available on that board, so if you know anybody you think would be a good addition. I actually talked to somebody we appointed on ZBA, Andrew Morosky. I talked to him about possibly coming on as an alternate, knowing his background. I didn't want to overburden him with town stuff yet, though.
Right.
So we're gonna meet after the new year and maybe talk about that. But anyway, I'd like to have, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on these two appointments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. So, that is the entire agenda. Item number 6D is discussion zoning commission drive-through window regulation. This is only for discussion purposes. We have Ed Meehan, Ron Lyman, and Attorney Dave Reisman here today. So, floor is yours.
Thank you.
And I would keep your voice up with mapping. I mean, these are pretty good, but you're welcome to sit anywhere you like to.
Hope you can hear me, Matt.
I can hear you, Dave. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a quick history on drive-through windows. And about 3 or 4 years ago, the regulation to allow a drive-through window was adopted for the B2 and B4 districts. And shortly thereafter, the old bowling alley property was converted to a Smithfield, an ag Smithfield in the back, Dunkin' Donuts in the left front as you face the facility. That layout traffic was reviewed by the town's traffic engineer, and it was reviewed by Mike Spears, the town's traffic authority, and the layout of the traffic on the Boston Post Road, the entries, and the internal layout was approved. What has happened, and I don't know where you are of it, but you may be that there is a congestion between an entry line from the Boston Post Road getting into the drive-through lane, and there have been occasions where the rear end of the vehicle is still in the Boston Post Road for a period of time. This precipitated almost a year ago to the day at the zoning commission. So we're going to have a moratorium on drive-through windows. Moratorium means that no application can be filed or approved.
What was the date on that about?
December 22. And the moratorium was to extend until June 23. So the zoning commission basically started considering this. They heard in early January from some operators of drive-through windows, a Starbucks in Groton, and a couple of others who just advised them what the issues were. They also allowed in May public comment, and we did comment. We had Don Poland from a regional consulting, firm Gorman, New York, to, make a presentation. He did so. The commission, listed, but then basically had workshops in which, they indicated they would prefer that they be allowed to do their business, and we're not looking for any comment as they proceeded. They then, basically when they got to, June, they, extended the moratorium until, December 31st, 23. And then in the fall, they extended the moratorium again until June of 2024. And at that point, Max's Place, and myself, just requested, so look, we aren't going to oppose it. We know during Christmas you may have difficulty doing things. Would you start the public hearing process in January? And that ended in October. They adopted this new regulation, and the new regulation essentially says you can have one drive-through window if you have a lot which is 90,000 square feet. In other words, over 2-acre lot. One drive-through window for a restaurant or pharmacy. You can have a financial institution on its own separate lot, or it could be on the same lot as a restaurant or pharmacy. That regulation was their October 23rd meeting. They promulgated it. We didn't find out. They neither the commissioner or land use office alerted us to it, and I didn't find out about it until early November when I was meeting with Chris Costa on another matter. And it has been going very, very quickly to the opening of the public hearing in December 4, and we had requested that meeting that they continue it because the planning commission had not yet responded. And the zoning commission was very adamant that you get everything in for the second meeting in December on the 18th, 1 week from now, that we get all the materials in yesterday for that meeting. Then they said, could we go to January? And no,
What materials do they want you to submit? What materials do they want you to submit?
I said, they asked me if I was prepared. And I said, I'm not prepared to make a full presentation because our planning consultant, Ted Meehan, has not yet completed his report. Things are going very quick. And more importantly, the planning commission had not yet responded on the referral. I said, we want to be able to present you with our planning report, and also that you should have the referral from the planning commission on consistency with the plan of conservation and development. And they had an opinion, that 35 days had elapsed from the time they sent it to the planning commission. They didn't have a meeting in between, but they were beyond 35 days. And I don't think it was correct, but I said, I'm not going to argue with that. I just think as a courtesy to the planning commission, you ought to extend it. And then they did. They continue the public hearing. They're saying, get all your stuff in by Monday, your planning report, these items which I have provided you, they were all filed yesterday. The refined, the regulation they finally adopted, is very similar to a draft that was put out almost a year ago, which is highly restrictive and onerous. The setback in the B4 district is 50 feet, building setback. The regulation says if you have a drive-through window, you gotta be 100 feet back. In the pedestrian node, they have the discretion to move reduce the setback. So like Max's place around where you have Five Guys, and there are buildings which are up towards the Ulta, towards the street. They have the discretion to do it. They don't have to. They can decide that, yes, that plan provides putting parking in the back, and they can do that. The new regulation says no reduction of setbacks in the pedestrian node. So this is more prohibition than regulation. So I get a little bit going on this. So let me give you the report from Ed Meehan. And the reason why we engage Ed Meehan is, from my point of view and from Ron's, is that he is familiar with a small town, and he is familiar with towns which have, like in Chester, the village, and have issues concerning development. He's had experience as a planner, and as you know, as a selectman and chair of the WPCA. So it's all on his resume. So let me stop and catch my breath and let him give his report. Thank you.
I know you are on time constraints, so I don't want to repeat what Dave said. Ed Meehan, I'm a private citizen now. I'm not on the Board of Selectmen in Chester anymore. Still volunteer in the capacity in a couple of different organizations, WPCA being one, energy team, and so forth in town. So I have about 45 years of experience in municipal government and town planning. Started out with the Estuary Regional Planning Agency back in the 70s after graduate school, went to City of Hartford as principal planner, and then spent 25 years town planning and development director in the town of Newington. And took some time. They asked me, as you mentioned, back in late November, to look at this. And to be brief, I looked just at the B4 zone, and that's the zone that it's called gateway zones in your regulations. And so it's covering the Spencer Plain entrance for the interchange of 166, and then coming down from the Middlesex Turnpike on the east side of town. So you have 11 existing drive-throughs in Old Saybrook. I think there's only one in the B4 zone, which is the CVS. Used to be Liberty Pizza, right? I still live in town, so that's what I used to remember. And so most of those drive-through are financial organizations, banks with drive-throughs. But what caught my attention in doing the research is the work that was done on the design study for Route 1 and the work that the Board of Selectmen have done in the sidewalk study in 2006. The design study was 2005. The connectivity concept was done in 2006. And as Attorney Royston said, it's listed over on the east side and the west side of town, excuse me, Spencer Plains, as a pedestrian node. And if you look at Max's Place now, the big Y as an anchor, I believe from a planning point of view, that concept that was embodied in the POCD, Plan of Conservation and Development, in the Yale study, has been realized at that intersection. And the regulations that are being proposed now are contrary to try to make that happen in a cohesive way. The 1,000-foot separation between drive-throughs, the setback that Attorney Royce mentioned, are all both counterintuitive. And I think they're gonna have the reverse effect of more strip commercial along that section of Route 1, which runs from Schoolhouse Road to the Westbrook Town line. And there's things going on there where buildings are coming down and property may be consolidation. And you have Benny's across the street. So I won't go line by line by my report, but these regulations are very restrictive, and I don't think they're gonna work to achieve what your policies and your plan of conservation and development vision for Route 1 in Old Saybrook. There's 6 nodes. This is one of the 6. We have a strip commercial situation, but the example of Max Place is a starting point where other sections of Route 1, as they come before the land use organizations in town, can start to turn that look around and get some traffic control on Route 1. These regulations don't permit any additional curb cuts. So for Max's Place, if this goes forward, you have an opportunity to put some traffic control signal at Denmore, that little dead end street, and control traffic in and out of Max's Place with traffic signals and continued with sidewalks. My observation sitting there a couple times and doing research for this says no left turn out of Sitco. That sign it completely ignores, and people are taking left turns out, and the traffic there is being backed up by excessive left turns that are illegal. So this is a way to solve some of the traffic issues. And the regulations that are being suggested talk about bringing in professional ITE, international traffic engineers, to advise the commission at the applicant's expense on what's going on with traffic, and particularly with drive-throughs. They're changing quite a bit with mobile apps, order ahead. They're not the old drive-throughs that I saw when I first started working on the Berlin Turnpike at Newington. And I've seen a lot of drive-throughs, and they're hard to manage, but the newer regulations that I think are before the commission now do help to manage them directly. So I hope you look at my report and the regulations, and what your EDC mentions, very strongly support the amendment we're talking about. Thank you.
One of the difficulties in this whole process is that if you just take a look at the zoning commission proposal, it is an entirely new regulation. It keeps some of the language of the previous one, and it's multi-pages, and the end of it, they basically strike through. That the way they do it, underline new, strike through old, and it has been extremely difficult to be able to present alternatives to this. This is something that just called for a dialogue, some continuous back and forth with a stakeholder, with someone who is directly affected. And Max's Place is directly affected. The zoning commission has said several times that this is not just for Max's Place. We don't want to just hear from you. It's the entire B4. But that really begs the question: if the regulation effectively will limit Max's Place to on 18 acres Plus, they want to have additional property so they can get the signalization from, Denver Road. Ron, through other companies, has acquired the John Donnelly and the motel buildings. The easterly line of the motel property is 395 feet. They have a regulation in here that both your side yards going all over to, over Spencer Plains Road to beyond the Alta property. Those are the two sidelines of the lot. They both have to be 400 feet. Well, we can adjust the one lot, but that is kind of how this regulation fails. I provided you earlier on a draft amendment to that regulation. And the difficulty, of course, is that is just takes a Philadelphia lawyer, even an old Saybrook lawyer, a lot of time to go through, understand what's being taken out and the ramifications. So to try to simplify it more, I just gave you this document, which gives those sections of the regulation, which we request be amended, and we have provided an amendment. And I know you got time constraints, and I'm just.
We don't have time, you have until 9:45. You're the only piece of business that's on right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I
take your
appreciate
time.
it.
I mean,
I wish the zoning commission had said the same
there's
thing.
no time constraints. That's why we did it this way.
Okay,
Take your time.
we go through the requests that we've made and the reason for them, and what I am and my client is looking for is basically an endorsement from the Board of Selectmen of those amendments. Let me give you the first one. The first one changes the language. Instead of saying you can only have one restaurant or pharmacy on a minimum 90,000 square foot lot, we're saying you can have only one per an area on the lot of 90,000 square feet. That accomplishes the purpose of making sure you have more land than the minimum 20,000 in the B4 district if you're going to have a drive-through. So we have requested that they change the language from lot to a 90,000 square foot pad. Okay, that is, as I say, that is 4 plus times the minimum lot size in the zone. But okay, it does accomplish their purpose of at least limiting the number of drive-through windows. 3 restaurant or pharmacy on the 18 to 20 acres that the Max's places have. That means under their plan, which has been disclosed, that to have a Chipotle, Panera, and a Starbucks on the Boston Post Road side, this would eliminate any more than that. If you don't like it, but we can live with it. So that is the first critical one. This request is consistent with the Planning Commission and the Economic Development Commission. Both of them wrote letters to zoning. Planning said that they supported, they recommended that they amend it to provide for this adds 3 restaurants or pharmacy plus a financial institution could either have its own pad or it could be on a pad with a restaurant. The second one, is the part about, allowing a financial institution to be on a 90,000 square foot, pad with a restaurant or pharmacy. The third item, if we're asking him to amend that portion of their draft, which says no new curb cuts will be allowed. And we said, and that means you can't take the 3 curb cuts which we have and consolidate them and have one curb cut at a signalized intersection. So what we're requesting is that that be amended to read, no additional curb cuts will be allowed and consolidation of curb cuts is encouraged. Number 4 is they have this requirement for the 400-foot sideline. They also have a requirement for 350 feet frontage. 50 feet is what is required by the existing regulation. They want to increase it to 350. We can live with that. 400. We'd have to adjust our boundary lines to do that. And I just think that 400 just doesn't have any practical usage. If you have a pad and you have to have a minimum width of that pad of 150 feet, that accomplishes the spatial requirements of regulation. They have that a 1,000 foot separation distance between windows on a new lot and a window on an existing lot. I don't know if you recall that they recently did amend the regulation for gasoline pumps, 500 feet separation distance, pump to pump. The proposed regulations for drive-through is 1,000 feet from drive-through on our lot or any lot in another lot. 1,000 feet measured from the property line. Measured from the property line. So Max's pace extends all the way around onto Spencer Plains Road. So if there were a lot in the B4 over on Spencer Plains Road, there's some buildings over there, who knows what could happen. If they got a lot, got a drive-through window there, Max's place would not be able to put a drive-through window across from the lake at Denmore on the property. That is, and the even the planning commission recommended that it be between 1,000 feet between buildings. Okay, we just say that it is that keep what we think is an excessive separation distance, but just at least make it between buildings on one lot to another. 6, there is that portion which puts the drive-through window a minimum the building for the drive-through window 100 feet back from the street line. And This, I think, is totally contrary to the concept of what you're trying to do in the pedestrian zone. And that's why we had, this, plan, 3 sheets, to show what could be done in the B4, to make it pedestrian friendly. But have the building, 50 feet. That building shown in this plan is 50 feet back from the street. And in between that 50 feet, you have two lanes. One of the, concerns of the zoning commission, was, having a bypass lane, a full bypass lane. So you don't have people, stuck in a line trying to go over on grass to get out of it. This, they say, have 2 parallel bypass lines. This plan shows 2 2 lanes. They're behind the stone wall. That stone wall is 3.5 feet tall. There's an existing stone wall along the frontage to Max's place. And it is a very attractive amenity to that shopping center. Then that gives you still 25 feet in order to have landscaping, a sidewalk, 5-foot porcelain stamped concrete sidewalk. It also leaves room for a 3-foot bicycle lane on the Max's Place property. If you, and on this plan, they show a bicycle lane on the pavement. When I first saw it, I wondered about that, and I went out and checked, and there is a bicycle lane. And it's about 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide on the Boston Post Road going west towards Saybrook. And it narrows and almost is eliminated where you have the right-hand turn lane onto Spencer Plain Road. This would allow the bike lane to be put on the property out of the road right of way. It leaves room for, I think as this plan shows, more landscaping and the like. Menu boards. Menu boards are on the side, would be on the side. This is part of the regulation. And this goes, this could be any property on the Boston Post Road that would be able to do that. And as you move from left to actually from right to left, coming from town, then the second sheet shows you how it would look in the middle. And the third sheet, we think is significant. If you take a look at the lower right, that shows the where you have a pedestrian entrance into the shopping center. Scott, if you just turn to the third page. Oh, you got it. Yeah, that's the third page. You've got the third one. Okay. That is and this would require, under the regulation we propose, it would require the consent of the zoning committee. They have the discretion as to whether they're going to reduce the setback. And we're just saying, don't say no pedestrian node reduction in setbacks. Don't take that away from you. Make that so that if you're gonna reduce them, you've got to make this thing pedestrian friendly. Gotta provide a bike lane. You're gonna have to provide, bike racks interior to the site. You're gonna have to provide, a transit district bus stop. They can, do that, as a trade-off for the reduction of the front setback. That's what we proposed in the, draft regulations, that they simply, retain that. Just take, strike the language, nothing, from the, no liner building, no building, in front. That change was also recommended by Torrance Towns in the River Cot. His report, Torrance says proposed amendment appear directed eliminating unwanted proliferation of drive-through windows. That's his language, Torrance. He then emphasizes that, quote, the local goal will be to balance the strong market demand for drive-through windows with the goal to encourage pedestrian-oriented design where higher levels of activity are present or desired. So what we are proposing is simply that the commission stay with the 50-foot building setback. Don't require it to be so far back that is contrary to pedestrian node stuff. And do not eliminate your own discretion to reduce setback. That's why this plan is called the demonstration plan for reduced setbacks. To just demonstrate that the regulation, if they adopt these amendments, are consistent with the whole idea of making a site pedestrian friendly. They then have section 53L. This is the last one, number 8 on this list. 53L is where they put in numbers of cars and stacking lanes, and in financial institutions, you have 2 spaces after the window. I'm not sure what the purpose of it was. And Jeff Jacobson, he reported to him, said, I'm not sure what that is, but we can abide by those. But we believe that to try to put right now specific stacking requirements doesn't make sense because things are changing so rapidly. What the drive-through windows will look like, what stacking lanes will be like within 10, 15 years from now, who knows? But we suggest that you make the applicant demonstrate that they've got a good, safe, adequate design based upon DOT criteria, IT, it's traffic engineers criteria, which is updated as time goes by. Use those and use your ordinance 71 power to get your own traffic engineer to look at this. And your own traffic engineer, they spoke to a traffic engineer January, and they simply said, yeah, there's issues with traffic, and you need to provide bypass lanes and make sure the traffic doesn't interfere, extend out into the road. And our plan for the signalized intersection, cars were to go to the interior of the site, behind the buildings, and then would circle down. Plenty of parking, stacking for the window, and a 10-foot bypass lane. It's 18 feet width for a residential street. Okay? This would have 20 feet to allow access to. Now, this, as our plan shows, we can do it. We can also have the number of spaces. We have more than enough room for stacking that they suggest. We still say that please have it based upon recognized criteria. You got to meet at least the DOT standard, at least the IT standard, and if your traffic engineer says you need more or because of your site something additional, you have the authority to do that. And you can say to the developer, if you aren't going to do that, we just aren't going to reduce the setbacks. They don't have to. So I would, my highest aspiration would be a decision by this board to recommend the adoption of all 8 of these requested amendments. That's what I hope for. Note that Fortuna said this was for discussion.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not prepared to endorse it, only because you're an advocate, and I appreciate it, and everything you said sounds very reasonable. I work here in town hall, and I'm not familiar with all the regs and what zoning has gone through and what planning's discussed and what EDC is discussed. And honestly, I mean, I feel like this board can do whatever they want. This is completely an independent call by everybody. It's fine. But I feel like I'm getting this in a vacuum, to be honest with you. And it looks beautiful. A lot of it seems to make sense. I know there is concern generally about, I'm no expert on this, concern about drive-throughs and a proliferation of drive-throughs. I mean, about where else in town this would apply. If this were put through, I assume both gateways.
Right.
And I know that, and Chris Costa does talk to me about this, but I have not asked her for a sit-down, in-depth discussion on it so that I better understand it. Maybe this board should have that. And maybe the chairman of the zoning commission should be here. I don't know. So, I mean, the board may choose to endorse it, but I'm not prepared to just say, yeah, this sounds great, let's do it personally, because I just feel like I'm not hearing the opposition, the other side to it, and so that I can make an informed decision.
I understand
But-
that, and that's why I said my dream, and most dreams of this sort go unfulfilled, that you would endorse all 8.
So can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
Where is this? So Monday is zoning meeting.
Yeah.
And what's gonna happen Monday? Do I mean anything or?
Monday, they said to us that okay, get your stuff in there, because we're not gonna continue in January, we're gonna continue the public hearing. They were prepared to close the public hearing and adopt this regulation without hearing from the planning commission.
And they did. They've now heard from the planning commission, correct?
They have received, well, let me put it this way, because I checked to see whether the planning recommendations had been posted yet on the website. I didn't check this morning, but I checked last night. It is not posted on the application materials. For the zoning commission, you go, zoning commission has all the application materials. It was not posted on the minutes of the planning commission. So I can't say they have them. There's just this rush to judgment, which is very, very,
Right, so there, go ahead, I don't want to cut you off.
Thank you.
No, I don't, I mean,
I know, I appreciate that. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to,
You can close. I'd like to speak at some point.
okay, let me let Ron go.
I don't mean to be difficult. One thing is for sure, we all love Greater Old Saybrook. I live in Westbrook, a mile from Max's place. I shop there regularly. It's home. It's home. I'm very, very proud of where I live, the community, I should say, that we live in. It is for all the reasons that you all know. It's, as I've been told over and over, we love Old Saybrook. It's nothing like being near the shore and the taxes are low. And then, and those are a couple of general comments we hear. And I think that that's what most people are assuming is going to last forever. Okay. Now, I would encourage all three of you selectmen to please get to know what's, you, Carl, were the first one to acknowledge and admit that you know very little bit about the local regulations, okay? And you have smart people that are involved in those commission members, and you're kind of leaving it to them. And I understand that you're not micromanaging everything in town. You let each person, they stay in their lane, so to speak. But I think it's very, very important because of the bigger picture, what I just mentioned. Yes, it's always going to be a beautiful shoreline area, but the taxes may not always be low. And you personally, Carl, asked me to please get involved and see how I could potentially help as a developer and so on regarding the East Main Street, the Marina Square area. And I think, considering, I know, and I think, let's put it this way, I think you'd all agree that Max's place turned out pretty well compared to what was there back in the day. I don't think Whole Foods would even be considering going there if it wasn't for what Max's place did there and so on, and the area is maturing and growing to a certain extent. Although I'm very proud of what Max's place is, I'm extremely anal and nutty about detail and having things be perfect, if at all possible. My standards have risen. Okay, I'm not as happy with, even though Max's place is something that I get compliments on regularly. And I think 99, most people, if you ask, certainly an overwhelming majority, think it's one of the nicer developments, if not the nicest one in the area. And I want to make it a lot nicer. Okay, first of all, and I don't mean to be at all derogatory towards any other developments in town. And I know my attorney was the attorney for the Agway and Duncan's property, but I wouldn't have done it that way. I really like when they came up with the idea of these liner buildings. I don't want to see a sea of parking. I don't want this town to ever look like the Berlin Turnpike or some place that we're, Washington Street and then Middletown or some kind of place where, oh my God, here's where all the fast food joints are and the whatnot. Okay, that's not my vision. I don't think it's any of your vision. okay? And so I would never, I want liner buildings. I don't want to see the sea of parking. I could, first of all, the way I've done my internal stacking, I have more cars just with many more cars just within the stacking lane itself than Dunkin' Donuts has if you go from Dunkin' Donuts all the way out to the road. I can fit 3 times the stacking within my property, enough cars that if Dunkin' Donuts, the existing one was all the way down to the Henny Penny, where you go to Old Main Street. That's how much stacking I can provide easily on site. And that's what I want to do, because I don't want to see, I want people to say, wow, that's nice. I don't want people to say, oh my God, yeah, look at all those cars. It looks like it looks like the Berlin turbine. That's not what I'm willing to develop. Okay, and let's put it this way, you know what Dunkin' Donuts look like. That's a pretty typical Dunkin' Donuts building, okay? This here, is not, doesn't look like a Dunkin' Donuts, nor does it look like a Starbucks building, okay? This building on the far right is planned to be Starbucks. I know it's been held up before, and I apologize, Matt, that you probably don't have a decent copy in front of you, but I want to do something really nice. It doesn't make sense for me to have the buildings 100 feet from the road. Makes no sense at all. I want to take the 42-inch walls, which I have probably 24-inch walls, or maybe 3-foot walls, if you're lucky, on a little bit of the 2 entrances. I want to do the 42-inch walls around my entire frontage. I want to obscure the property, but the way the walls are done, if you're sitting in a sedan, and you're going around the building for the drive-through, you're going to not see the sedan. You're going to see the persons from their shoulders up. So the guests, they can look over the wall. The only time you'll see the car is if it's a pickup truck or a van. I really want to obscure it, not just from the road, but even, even I've got landscaping between the buildings so that one building, so Chase Bank doesn't have to look out at the drive-through cars coming through from Chipotle. Whether we all like it or not, things have changed dramatically in the world regarding drive-throughs and COVID and the concerns, the way people are. They need to, they want to, they insist upon, and not having to get out of their car for every little thing. Okay, and it's what the national retailers, who, by the way, I choose to do national tenants that have amazing credit so that I can get financing for them, and so that and because of that, I am willing and able to do an over-the-top building. The average developer isn't proposing 42-inch walls. They're not proposing buildings that look like this. So you never have a clue that it was going to be a coffee shop. You would never have a clue. That's the kind of things that I want to do.
So Matt has Matt has to get off.
I'm sorry. I thought we had till 9:45.
You do.
Oh,
Could I,
well,
could I? just-
So I want to ask one question.
Yes,
So you submitted these proposed amendments that are dated 12/11/23. That's what you wrote.
that's correct. That's what I filed.
Okay. Did the Planning Commission and Economic Development Commission, and Jennifer Donahue came into the room, this is exactly what they voted on?
No, they did not vote on that. They voted, for example, the Economic Development Commission voted on 3 items. The Planning Commission voted on 3 or 4. Planning Commission said generally allow 3, adopt the pad idea. Don't give up the discretion.
Why not all of them? Were they not ready, or you didn't think it was appropriate?
No, I gave them the document. It wasn't ready for Economic Development Commission, but it's a work in progress, Carl. As you get recommendations, you try to update it. And So at this point, if I could just ask
Yep.
that this board give due consideration to the report of the Economic Development Commission and the Planning Commission and the applicant's planner, give due consideration to those and take your time in making this decision, which so that you can.
But do we have time? That's what I'm not
Oh,
understanding.
They're not giving us time.
They-
And if
they
you
have-
really want Mariners Way and East Main Street to continue the way it is. By the way, I was originally gonna do Max's Place over there. At the time, the first selectman said no retail over here. I know it would be considered now. I think that, I would hope that your commission would like to see something as nice or nicer, which is what I'm proposing, as Max's Place over there. It would make a huge difference. But you need to turn around and the biggest issue going on with what's going on, Carl, with East Main Street is the fact that the commission needs to be a more business friendly to national retailers. And they have by special exception, the discretion to make sure we'll only allow you to turn around and do your drive-throughs and everything you want. If you do something that really looks amazing there, okay? But right now, there is not that decision. It's gotten worse than when I did Max's Place, okay? And that's because of 99% of it is because of the zoning that's in place. It's not business friendly for somebody like myself who wants to do a really nice project over there. I can't. And believe me, as a practical matter, although there's a lot of basic services over there that are needed and people go to, if all of a sudden the regulation changed so it was business friendly for someone like myself, the land would go up tremendously in value, enhance the Craigslist, and people like myself would start buying it. People that have their existing business would say, oh, for that price, I'm happy to go to a little industrial park. I'm a destination business anyway. People will come to me. But, this is economic development. 101, we really need to keep the taxes based. Otherwise, what's gonna happen 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when you guys decide to retire from Harvard, people are gonna say, geez, I wonder why the taxes doubled over the last 10, 15 years and why things were slid. Because the ex-officiary member who could be involved and could really, really impact economic development, and could say to these guys, bigger picture, okay, you don't want to see a bunch of drive-throughs at Burlington. Do something like this, hold their feet to the fire, make sure they do something that nice, and only then let them by special exception, architecture, and so on. And then you'll have something nice over there. And that area will bloom and your grand list will bloom. And when you turn around and do something, so let's say a grocery store or something like Anchor will come over, the Anchor comes over, the restaurants are gonna come over. People want to go to nice restaurants over there. Guess what? As part of that, they'll get their sidewalks, their bike paths. It'll happen. If you really want this to happen, Matt,
It's okay, Matt, Carl, and Scott.
I really want it to happen, Carl. Please get involved. Please get involved. You were involved in all the workings except for the things that impact the economic development and the real future of this town. And one day, I want to see that side of town being awesome, and I'd like to be part of it. And a lot of other people would like to be, but it's got to happen with the zoning commission first. And the only way it's going to happen is if the commission realizes that, listen, you get everything they want to control the issues like that they have presently with the existing Duncans. If they turn around and hold it tight with the special exception, making sure that all of their concerns are handled. They don't have to do it in such a way that encourages me to want to separate my lots into 90-acre lots that have multiple driveways. I don't want a mess like that. They're encouraging me to turn around and move out of town. That's what they're encouraging me to do. Okay.
Very quickly.
Please, will you please come and speak, Carl? I'm asking you man to man as a major taxpayer. I would greatly appreciate if you would be, I came to speak and did what you asked me to. I think I've done, you know what? I could have gotten twice the rent if I made a deal with Stop and Shop. They were offering me big bucks when I had Kohl's and so on. But I promised this town I was going to give an alternative, a second choice, and make something nice. I delivered, okay? And I want to make it even nicer. please, please, please keep encouraging things like what I've done and more like it. Okay, please step up, you know, to the plate as the ex-official member and get familiar with what's going on there. And make sure that guys, that this town shows economic future and keeping the taxes low as they've been historically. Please, for this town's sake.
Fair enough, Carl, last question was, do they have time? A zoning commission proposed amendment, a public hearing can go on indefinitely. They don't have to complete it within 35 days. So I would ask you to not only ask them to give due consideration, but to please continue the public hearing to the January meeting. In the event any member of the board of selectmen may want to provide additional comment.
Okay.
And thank you all. I'm sorry I didn't mean to outburst, but as you can tell, my tuckus, my butt and my ass and my assets, if you express are way on the line here. And I've really stepped up any way I can for Old Saybrook, unlike anybody I think ever has or ever will. And please don't throw cold water when somebody's trying to really do something really nice for this town and its economic tax base.
Matt.
Please, Matt, I'm really counting on all of you,
Matt's right.
the three of you to get together privately and hopefully step up to the plate. I'm sorry, Matt, thank you for your time.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Guys, I really care about economic development in our community and do want us to be thoughtful about things. I apologize that I have a conflict and I need to step away. Carl and Scott, as I've listened to this, from my perspective, there's things that I appreciate about, Ron's proposed design that seem that it's inconsistent with the zoning regulations as proposed. But are things that are part of what we want economically, planning wise, in terms of pedestrian oriented design, streamlining, traffic and being cognizant of these pieces. So, from my perspective, I would support the Board of Selectmen making a formal request to zoning that this does continue past the December 18th meeting, because I would like to understand this more before I made any more recommendation. I'd like to have a conversation with Chris. I'd like to make sure that planning was able to weigh in some more.
So we'll take that as a motion. I'll second it.
And I support that idea. I think
Okay.
That's a good idea.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye,
So
thank you.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate your time. Thank you all and have a great day.
No, hold on.
Oh,
All right, Matt signed off.
I have to go. Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
The meeting is still on,
Okay.
so we're not, if I have time,
I'm okay.
so if you want to continue, you're more than welcome to. Matt had to go.
I got through the 8 amendments. And I'd be happy when you say it's in a vacuum. You're getting this and you would like to hear from the others. Why didn't they ask you to attend any one of their probably 15 meetings in which this was on the agenda? It is not they kept on saying to us, this isn't about Max's place, it's the whole before. So they aren't really interested in us, but they certainly should have inquired of the board.
So, to Ron's point, I have a certain obligation, I think, to either attend meetings when I'm requested to, or to ask for presentations if we need to. I know it's been a work in progress I've heard a lot of different things. Economic development's in the room right now, Jennifer. I've heard a lot of different things. I obviously have staff here, that Chris Costa, that I hear from the most, because she's in the office every day. Scott isn't in the office every day. Matt's got a job somewhere else. So, it does fall on me. I'm not saying it doesn't, and I do get involved. I got involved when Max's place was being developed.
Yeah.
But in some respects, I wish this had come to us a little bit either earlier on your part or from zoning. zoning, all they asked us for was an extent, not, it wasn't even a referral. It was just like, we want to extend the moratorium. If you have an objection, let us know.
But then they adopt that regulation and, Jennifer, you can, I found out, that this regulation was in effect about 1 week before the Economic Development Commission meeting. I could not attend that meeting. Tyler Lyman attended it with materials I gave him. And we did the best we could to give the Economic Development Commission the information. They were in the same position you feel like you are now, okay? This is a whole huge bunch of stuff. How can I digest it all and make an informed decision? And so they picked 3 items which I think they felt were so clearly required a comment from them. In their letter, and it says, they said one per 90,000 square foot lot. They said, does this mean you can only have one per 90,000? If you take a look at their.
So that's your lot versus pad.
Right.
That was
Their
some of the
regulation now
conversation.
says you have to have a 90,000 square foot lot. We do. Okay, you can have one restaurant or pharmacy on that whole entire lot. And our regulation says, okay, you want to space them out, you don't want to have drive-through windows chock-a-block on a 20,000 square foot lot, because that's the minimum lot size. You think that is not what it should be, and I agree. I agree. Do something to space them out, but this is so draconian. I mean, to say one, you get one up. And if it's a restaurant or pharmacy, you got all that, you can also have a bank, because banks are not deemed to be a big issue for drive-throughs. So this is what happens in the process. And so that material came in. We then go to the planning commission on the 15th. Okay, so had more time for the planning commission. I had about a week and a half and was able to provide them with more. They got the amendment, our draft amendment, which you also got. This is just, and trying to catch up with the review process of a very, very complicated. And that's why I'm saying, I'd love you to endorse them all, that's my dream, but at least as you voted, get them to extend it so you have a chance to hear more. I'd be happy to answer, that's process, okay? And Carl,
Carl, I want people from Westport
Hold on,
and Greenwich to come here and say, wow, this is what we need in Westport or Greenwich.
do you have,
And you can do that if you endorse what I've mentioned. And it'll also look good at the other side of town where you said you really want to see that change. And if you really want to see that change, Carl, you're going to find out when that report comes out that this is going to be, zoning is going to be your biggest issue. Okay, and if you could support that here and make sure by special exception that someone's got to do something that nice over there, but they can do their drive-throughs and everything else they need to develop something that economically feasible, it'll happen. Okay, and it's up to the guy you see in the mirror in the morning if you really want this or not.
do you have something on appeal right now with the 1,000 foot or not?
no, that
Because
was,
that was
That was a gas station. I mean,
Yeah,
we have so much brain damage to get a gas station.
Just,
Oh my
let me answer.
God. A big why, who needs it in a business?
Let me answer this question, please.
Okay,
We had appealed
yeah,
the denial. And then in the meantime, we came in with a revised application to 500 feet. And that was approved,
okay,
so we then withdrew. So right now,
okay,
500 feet pump to pump test.
yep, all right,
Can I just mention, these regulations, I came in late, the process has been convoluted, extensions and moratoriums. I've seen a lot of regulations, to Mr. Wyden's point, this is like turning an aircraft carrier around. And I'll go back to the Yale design study, which gave a very good message in how the strict commercial traffic issues on Route 1 could be mitigated. The regulations that the zoning commission has before them are completely 100 degrees opposite. 1,000 feet here, 400 feet there. There's no rhyme and reason in a shopping center that gives a developer flexibility with special exception control to do a nice project. And I think Max's Place has raised the bar on Route 1 that other developers need to look at, but they can't do that with these dimensional requirements. They're chopping up lots, that goes back to the 50s. You know,
That zoning commission is an aircraft carrier,
well, that's
and
what-
someone's gotta have the, you know what's, to turn around and care enough and have the, you know what's, to really, you know, to be able to get that aircraft carrier, back online with what's really important in the big picture for Old Saybrook's big picture economic development, rather than somebody saying, we don't want fast foods, we don't want drive-throughs. I mean, really, they just don't want them, okay? They don't want even apartments, and of course, there's beautiful apartments being built, but the only way they're being built is with A30G, not on multi-family zone land. And, you know, people wanna come to this area, they, they wanna have reasonable services, and we want them to be nicer than what they'll find in Westport and Greenwich. We want those people to come here and say, you know why that's so nice? Because Carl Fortuna cared enough and stood up and turned the aircraft carrier, but he had the
All right.
guts to do
All
so,
right.
and the vision.
Right.
I will tell.
If there are other persons, Chris Costa, whoever that you want to speak to, you know, that's obviously fine, that's within your right. One of the things which
She's employed by the zoning commission.
this is, they did not have a planner review that, a planner with the qualification. Chris Costa, with all due respect, is designated town planner, but I don't think she has the degrees or qualifications. She's very good,
Very dedicated.
but she is the and
yeah, no, I understand.
okay. So whoever you might want to speak to, that's fine, because I just think this is so clear. If you have a chance to go through it.
Yeah.
And look at, okay, what does this mean?
Which, by the way, it was submitted by, I mean, you submitted a lot of it yesterday, in fact. Right.
I did attempt to, under public comment, because just trying to catch up to.
You mean
things.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
and
was-
I,
Not, I
That was-
understood the circumstances under which that happened.
okay, but I did give the material. So there was material which you had before, today's material.
If we knew where they were headed, Carl, a year ago, it's been a year and a half, it's gonna be a year and a half, we would have done this a year ago. Okay, when we finally get to there, when they finally decide what they wanna do, then all of a sudden they wanna do it all in a couple of weeks. And, you know, consultants, everybody to prepare things,
Right,
we jump through hoops. And I'd really appreciate You folks getting, I really appreciate the extension you've voted for. And I really appreciate you please getting involved and understanding, how much control the commission has to make sure things turn out this way. But it's not gonna happen if we don't, if they turn around and get their way. And you allow what they want. And you know what? 10 years from now, Carl, when you're ready to retire to Florida or whatever you're doing, okay, you'll say, geez, geez, East Main Street looks the same. Or it's amazing how much East Main Street's changed because of, we got involved to make sure that we could make it as nice as that, with special exception, that we've given the developers what they need to get the tenants they need, so they can get the financing they need. But yet, we've got the controls that make our town look nicer than Westport and Greenwich. And you know what, Carl, I want you to go like this, pat yourself in the back, because it's gonna happen or not happen because of you. Because right now, it's gonna take Superman, I'm thinking you're Superman to turn around that aircraft carrier. Okay, you can do it, Carl.
All right, thank you, Rob.
You can get the support,
I'm available to speak.
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your time.
Any one of you.
Yeah, yep,
Just as
okay.
you're, I will speak to anybody else you want to speak to,
yeah, no, I get it.
kind of on the other side. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for all your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed, good to see you.
Selectman.
Scott, we have no more business.
Okay, I gotta go
Those are.
do taxes,
Move to adjourn,
but I have, I make a motion to adjourn.
yes. I second it, all those in favor? Aye.